y'all, it's Susan with Susan's Country Living. Welcome to my kitchen. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're going to be tackling corn. I purchased some corn from a family that lives in town that I've taught all their kids, and they grow sweet corn, the kids do, and sell it to make a little money. So I always get some from them. And this year it is great. We've already had some corn on the cob. We've had a lot of rain, and so it was nice and filled out and sweet and juicy. So my first step, what I'm going to do is blanch this, because I'm going to be doing several different things with this corn today. So we're going to get this blanched. I've got a pot of boiling water here on the stove, and we're going to drop some corn in and blanch it 2 to 3 minutes, and then put it in some cold water and get it dried. We're going to shrink wrap some of it, and then some of it we're going to cut it off the cob, and it would be like a creamed corn is what we're going to do. So I'm going to unwrap some of these. My water is boiling. It's ready. I'm going to get a tray ready with some paper towel on it, because once it is blanched and cooled down, I'm going to stick it in the fridge to get it cooled down a lot and get it dry, and then shrink wrap it, and it will be delicious, and we'll be enjoying cream corn all year. So, and it's supposed to last 6 to 9 months in the freezer, but shrink wrapping it, I've had it last a lot longer than that. So let me go ahead and show you what we're going to do here. I've got my pot of boiling water, and I'm not using my big canner pot. We're going to put this in here. Of course, it's going to cool it off. I had shucked this earlier and stuck it in the refrigerator, wrapped up, and there's silks on it, but that's okay. That lets you know it's homemade. So we're going to drop some in here. We're going to wait till it comes up to a boil and start the timer for blanching. So while we're doing that, don't mind my mess back here. It's garden season. That's why I look the way I do. So it gets messy in the kitchen. And look at these gorgeous tomatoes. These are black Krim, and I've never had so many large tomatoes. And also have some Cherokee purples. They look like black Krim. They have the green shoulders also. But I think that's a Cherokee purple, not as green. Cherokee purples tend to split, but luckily the last couple of days we've not had rain, and these are coming in, and I've just never had so many large tomatoes. So I share a lot of these. We slice them up, have one every night for dinner, and then some of them that get stung by those leaf-footed beetles, I can kind of tell. I peel these and stick them in a container in the freezer, and when I'm ready to can some tomatoes or make some tomato jam, I'll pull those out of the freezer. So what I'm going to do is I've got a tray, a towel down on it, and just a clean towel, and then I'll take some paper towel on top of that, and we're going to have this to put our corn on to let it dry before we shrink wrap it. If you don't have a shrink wrapper like a food saver, you can use Ziploc bags. I've even stuck a straw in the corner of it and sucked out the air and pulled it out, and it works great. And my corn froze fine and did not get freezer burn. So let's go check on the blanching. Okay. Not boiling. You want to blanch to destroy some of the, I believe it's enzymes that cause the corn to deteriorate. Any vegetable, they have those enzymes where you blanch before you freeze. Unless you freeze them in water, like my okra, I don't blanch it. I freeze it in water. Southern peas, zipper cream peas, purple hull peas, black-eyed peas. If I freeze them in water, and I don't have to blanch them. Okay, it's just still not quite at a boil. I'm going to get this pan ready right here with some ice and some water to dunk them in. Time is up. There we go. Our time is up. And plunge this corn into that ice water to stop the cooking. And get another batch going, and we'll just continue until it's all done. Be back when it's time to shrink wrap. Okay, so I'm finished blanching all my corn, and I've got my food saver here. And what I'm doing is cutting my bags. I've sealed the bottom, and if the little cob part was kind of rough here, I trimmed that off so I don't get any holes poked in the bags I'm using. I just have a discard pan here, and I cut my bag to match the two corn on the cob that I'm going to shrink wrap. And I'm just doing two together because there's just two of us in the house. And this is going to help us to have, corn on the cob probably once a month is what I'll do. I'll do about half of the cobs, leave them corn on the cob so that we can have the fresh corn on the cob about once a month, and the others we'll scrape to use. So when you use a food saver, you got to make sure you have enough room here at the top so that it fits here on the food saver. Here. So that it fits into that chamber that does the removing of the air. There. I just like to poke mine down there, or it just goes right there. And there we have, it's vacuum sealed, and we'll just put the date on that and pop it into the freezer. The corn was dry, it's been blanched and ready to go. All I have to do is either pop it in the microwave in a covered dish with a little bit of water for a minute or two, or in some boiling water for about 5 or 6 minutes, and it'll be ready to eat. Alright, so I got my corn shrink wrap, the corn on the cob, and now I'm ready to do some cutting off the cob. You want to make sure you have a really sharp knife here, and I like to cut off just the top little part of the kernel so that I can scrape the corn milk that's inside. So let me move you a little closer so you can see what I do. Some people use a bundt pan where they put it on the bundt pan and it holds it, and they're able to cut down like this, and the kernels go into the bundt pan. I've done that before. I've tried several different ways before, and this is the way I usually come back to, because I want just a very thin layer. Some people use that cob cutter that cuts it off. It just depends on what you want. So what I do is sliced my thumb down a mandolin, or day before yesterday. So that's what that Band-Aid's for. And I just, if you have a really sharp knife, it just cuts through so easy. And you just got to be careful of, kind of hold your fingers out flat. You could put this on a cutting board if you wanted to. But I just don't want to get too deep. And I'll just scrape it into this dish pan. In fact, I think this is probably the dish pan my grandmother would use. I remember shucking corn on the back porch at Mom and Dad's house, and inside my mother and my grandmother would be cutting and scraping, and they did that just a few times. My grandmother probably did it more than my mom, but I remember that one time. But having a nice big dish pan catches all the kernels, and can be messy and splattering. So let me show you now how to scrape that cob here, and that's where I will kind of lay it down here in the pan like this, and I use the back side of my knife, not the sharp side, and I just go, and this is the part where it will splatter, but I just kind of scrape, and I don't want the husk or even the casing of the corn. I don't want any of the cob there, and I just scrape, and I don't get deep where I'm getting any cob pieces. And then I turn it to the other end and do the same thing, using the dull side of my knife. And I make sure that every now and then you'll get little bitty pieces of corn that kind of grew under the end of the cob there. Alright, and this is a really good treat for the chickens. They'll peck on this to get that little bit. There's like a little kernel down in there. I could keep scraping and scrape a little more, but I don't want to get any extra tough part. There. So that was one small piece of corn, and that's what I got off that one piece of corn there. So I'm going to sit down here at the bar stool, and I'm going to get this corn scraped, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm finished cutting all that corn off the cob and scraping, and I did about 30 ears, and I got all this corn. So what I'm going to do is cold pack them into some pint jars and add a half a teaspoon of salt, and then boiling water up to 1 inch headspace, and we're going to can this corn. I follow the Ball Blue Book. You can do a hot pack where you add water and you bring it up, you heat it. I'm going to do the raw pack where I'll add boiling water after it's in the jars. And they'll process 1 hour, it says for pints, 1 hour and 35 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. Corn will already be cooked, so then I can use it however I want to use it for dinner. So it's quick as far as already having your corn cooked, and if I want to do like a corn casserole bake or something like that, it's already ready. So I'm going to get started getting these jars filled up and getting this corn canned. Okay, so I finished getting my pints filled up, and I got 7 pints, and I put a half a teaspoon of salt. And you don't want to pack the corn in there, just pour it in there, and once it's 1 inch headspace, you're done. You don't want to pack it in there. You don't want it dense. It may expand a little bit. I'm going to use metal lids. I have used the Tatler, the reusables, or Harvest Guard, and I had trouble with them, the seal breaking after a few weeks. The seal failed. So I'm going to use metal on these in case something was, there was a problem some way with that. And I lost quite a few jars of corn because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and add the boiling water up to 1 inch headspace and put my lids and rings on there and get them in the canner. go through and make sure the bubbles are out and remeasure the headspace. This corn is really sweet, so I felt a lot of stickiness, so I'm going to be really careful to get these rims very, very clean. Sometimes using vinegar helps get, if you had a oily residue on it. But I think just this hot water is going to clean those rims really good. So I'm going to put water in my canner that's cold, or I'm going to put part hot and part cold, because I do not want these jars to break. So I did a cold pack on them, and I just had it just finger tight. Put partial hot, and the rest will be cold. Yeah, it'll be fine. Putting them in. Loaded here. The water in the bottom. We're going to put our lid on. I have a fairly new seal on here, so it's difficult for me to get closed. There we go. All right, we're going to turn it on, and we'll get a stream of steam coming out there, and we'll start our timer for 10 minutes, and then we'll put the weight on and process it 10 pounds for 1 hour and 35 minutes. An hour and 35 minutes has passed, and the pressure's come down, and I did have some siphoning. Not too happy about that, but it happens. So here's our canned creamed corn. Canned creamed sweet corn. So thanks for stopping by Susan's Country Living. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.